Welcome everyone. Today's topic is flips versus rentals on a pandemic. What is it that you should do? Should you do a flip? Should you do a rental? So before we jump into it, I'm going to tell you the pros and cons of flips and rentals, and then we are going to talk about the crisis and how that's affecting what you need to do today. Okay, so let's just take a quick overview of what the pros and cons are for the fleets and the rentals, right? So let's just quickly display them all on the screen. So what are the pros and cons of flipping? We're going to start with the cons. The biggest con for flips is taxes. Okay, so what it means is, let's assume that you make a 20% net profit in your flip. So if you sold the property for 200,000, let's assume that you made 40,000, assuming everything went right? So now you need to pay Uncle Sam 20 to 25% on your net profit. So you're not going to be making 40,000. You are going to be making low 30s. Okay, so big difference. Flips trigger a tax event, so that's a big disadvantage of flips. Now, let's quickly summarize some of the major cons of flipping, right? So it's a lot more risk for sure because you need to get several numbers right, like the ARV, the rehab, and then you need to pay the right amount for the property. So if you get one of those three numbers incorrectly, then you're going to lose money. Okay, so overall, in my opinion, flips are very risky. And not only that, but you keep running on the treadmill, right? So the minute you stop doing flips, guess what happens to your income? It goes down to zero. Are you building wealth by doing flips? Are you increasing your net worth? The answer is no, absolutely not. So that is the second biggest disadvantage with flips. However, if you do everything right, even if you pay taxes, it could be a nice return. Okay. So now, what's happening with buy and hold, right? So what are the advantages? What are the disadvantages of buying rentals? To me, the biggest advantage is that you're building wealth in the long run. Okay, so your net worth is increasing over time as property values go up over time, rents go up, so your cash flow, your passive income goes up on a yearly basis. Some of the drawbacks is obviously vacancies and management. Okay, so you need to make sure that the property upkeep is done properly and that you handle tenants' complaints very fast, because otherwise you're going to have a high turnover of tenants, meaning tenants are going to be moving out of your units unless you keep them in very good condition and the tenants are happy. Okay, so overall, in my opinion, when you buy and hold, it's a lot easier, it's less risk, and it's more profitable in the long run. Because when you do the rehab, for instance, for a rental, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be like incredible versus a flip. You really need to do it almost perfect so that you can command top dollars. So it's, in my opinion, buying for rentals, it's a lot easier and way more profitable in the long run. Okay. So now these are some of the summary of the buy and hold pros and cons. In my opinion, as I said before, having that steady passive income beats any other strategy, and that is accomplished through buying appreciating assets, meaning houses, townhomes, condos, multi-units. That beats any strategy, because not only are you going to be building wealth over time, but you will also be increasing cash flow over time, okay, on a yearly basis. As leases renew, you increase rents, because after all, everyone will need a place to live, regardless of the economy situation. Needs shelter. They need every single individual house to live. Okay, so now what happens with this pandemic, right? So what is it that you should do and what you need to think about? So let's talk about what's happening today and what you need to do. But before we do that, I just want to give you a framework that we have developed when it comes to whether you should flip or buy. That's something very important that you need to understand. So imagine a lot of people I see that they let go of huge, major long-term profits by doing a flip, right? So what we're gonna show you is we've developed a framework that will allow you to quickly decide whether you should flip or rent. And it's very, very simple. I'm gonna show you. So we developed this spreadsheet that I'm just about to show you right here. It is super, super simple. All you need to do is you have the flip scenario and the buy and hold scenario. So all we need to fill in is the blue squares. And we're going to make this available to all of you. And the framework is going to tell you whether you should flip or buy and hold. But in a nutshell, before we enter the data into the calculator, into the spreadsheet, it is very simple. If your net profit from the flip is 10 times greater than your yearly cash flow on the rental, then you should flip. Does that make sense? I'm going to repeat this again. If your net profit on the flip is 10 times greater than the yearly cash flow, then you should flip. So let's just quickly show you an example. So let's assume you buy a property for, we're going to buy the property for 150,000, 1, 2, 3. We're going to put in 35,000 for the rehab. And then the property's ARV is going to be 265, 1, 2, 3, okay? So right now, the flip profit is going to be about 46,000, okay? Now, let's do the rental analysis. So we're buying the property for the same price, 150,000. Now, the rehab on the rental will always be less than the rehab for the flip. Because as I said before, the rehab for the rental doesn't need to be perfect, right? You don't need to put top-notch appliances, light fixtures, and so forth. So it's not going to be 35, it's going to be 25. Now, therefore, the ARV is not going to be the same, right? So the ARV automatically is going to drop from 265 to 235 for the rental because the rehab is not quite the same. Okay, now, how much are we going to be collecting in rent? Remember, the 1% rule of thumb, if you buy something for 150, you better collect at least 1% or 1,500. So for a property that its ARV is in the mid 200,000, the rent should be very close to the 2,000 range. So the rent should be at least 1,950. Okay, now monthly expenses, that's tax, insurance, maintenance, we're gonna leave that at 600. And then the interest rate, let's leave it at 6%, okay, for now. So right now, it's saying to hold the property. You see here, decision to hold the property. So look at this. The gray area says 1 year profit. So the net profit for the flip is going to be 46,800. But look at this. Just take the cash flow for 1 year and multiply that times 10, and it's 48,685. So it's slightly higher by $2,000. Therefore, the decision is to hold the property. Okay. Now, let's do something a little bit different. How about if the ARV for the flip is going to be maybe 275? 1, 2, 3. Boom. Now, all of a sudden, we need to do a flip. Why? Because the net profit on the flip, assuming everything goes right, is going to be 56,000, which is greater than the cash flow for the year multiplied by 10. Okay, so if that's the case, then you need to flip. So we're going to make this available to all of you. And not only that, but this spreadsheet has another tab that shows you the amortization schedule, right? So it's going to show you for a 30-year loan, 6% interest rate, how you are going to pay off the property. How many years? Obviously 30. You can change that term and you'll see how much you're going to be saving. So if you make it, let's say, a 20-year term, boom, you're going to pay off the property a lot sooner. You're going to pay a lot less in interest. So all the details are going to be on the loan amortization sheet. So now let's go back to the presentation. So we're going to give you this easy framework for you to know whether you should flip or buy and hold the property. But there's always a but. This only applies when the economy is in a healthy state. So now we're going to talk about today what's happening with this contraction of the economy due to the coronavirus. So let's talk some facts and how that's going to impact whether you should buy and hold or fix and flip the property. So right now, interest rates are historically low. Inventory is still very low. So what happens when interest rates are very low? You have a lot more buyers coming into the market. Why? Because buying becomes cheaper, so they can get loans for a very reasonable interest rate. So that's going to saturate the market with buyers, and still having a low supply of real estate or inventory, that's holding prices still high. But due to the crisis in April, May, June, property sales have dropped drastically, 30 to 40%, which has triggered a drop in property prices by 7 to 10%. So if a home was worth in March or February 100,000, right now the same property you can buy it for 92,000 or 90,000 due to the crisis. But still, prices are still holding high, right? So the question is, when prices are holding high, what is it that you need to do? Should you buy and hold or should you fix and flip? Well, not only do you need to understand the current situation, but guess what? You also need to understand what's going to happen in 6 and 12 months to help you make a decision, because a flip is not going to happen overnight, right? You're going to have the rehab time, which might be 3 to 6 weeks, up to 2 months, plus you're going to put it on the market, right? You're going to put it on the MLS, so market time. So the whole project of the flip could take up to 2, 3, 4, 6 months, right? Therefore, you need to understand what's going to happen in 6 months from now so that you can make a wise decision whether you should take on a flip right now or do a buy and hold instead. Does that make sense? So what's going to happen? That's the next question. What's going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months? Let's understand what's going to happen. So right now, the government has made a lot of stimulus injected into the economy. Okay, so number one reason is because Trump wants to get reelected, right? So he wants a healthy economy by November when the elections happen, so he gets reelected. That is why he's given $1,200 to Americans. Not only that, but he's helped a lot of businesses. And most importantly, no foreclosures 60 days after March 18th. And then he also, as part of the CARES Act, allowed owners to not make a mortgage payment for 6 months. That's called forbearance. But mind you, that this is not a forgiveness of the mortgage payment. This is just a deferment. In 6 months, guess what? The homeowner needs to pay the mortgage for the past 6 months. So think about this. Unemployment right now in the US is at 25%, or 40 million people unemployed. It's at the highest ever in the history of the United States. So imagine, if people don't have a job, are they going to be able to pay the mortgage or rent? Of course not. So even if they're given the option to not pay the mortgage in the next 6 months, do you think they're going to have the money to pay off 6 months worth of mortgage? Absolutely not. So what's going to happen once the forbearance period is over. And still, they don't have a job. Imagine, they are going to go into foreclosure, unfortunately. So as of right now, when the pandemic started, a lot of people, especially in C, D neighborhoods that were hit the hardest, blue collar people lost their jobs. So right now, once the courts open in towards the end of July, August, guess what? They are already 9,000 applications for foreclosure ready to be filed. So there's going to be a huge wave of foreclosures as soon as the courts open. And then the 6-month period for the forbearance is going to end towards the end of October, November, beginning of November. So right after election. So what's going to happen for those people who can't pay their mortgage or the all the deferment payments? Guess what? They're going to enter again the foreclosure process. So there's going to be a second wave of foreclosures. So when you have a lot of distressed owners going into foreclosure, guess what? That's helping inject more inventory into the market. So when you have an increase of inventory supply, then property prices are going to go down. So it's been predicted that there's going to be up to a 30% property prices drop by 30% in the next 6 to 12 months. So a property that in February was worth 100,000, by mid next year, 2021, the same property could be worth $70,000. So the question is, should you do a flip? Well, it's going to be extremely risky because the property prices are going to drop, are going to continue to drop due to these waves of foreclosures coming into the market. Then guess what? People doing flips are going to lose money. So if you already have a property, right now is the time to sell, right? Okay, so you shouldn't start any flips. But if you already started a flip back in March or before the pandemic, you've got to sell the property ASAP because property prices are going to continue to drop for the next 6 to 12 months. So if you have a property to sell, sell it now. If you're thinking about doing flips, right now is not the time, because by the time, even if you get these three numbers right, the ARV, the rehab, and you pay the right price for the property, by the time you put it on the market 3-4 months down the road, guess what? By then, there's been at least 2 waves of foreclosures coming into the market. That's going to trigger property prices to continue to decrease. Does that make sense? So when you put the property in the market in 4, 5, 6 months, by then your property will be worth 10, 15, 20% less. So you may lose a lot of money doing flips. So right now, the advice is not to start any flips. If you have a property to sell, you need to sell it right now because we're sort of like at the peak, at the top of the market. And then property prices are going to continue to drop up to 30% in the next 12 months. So should you buy and hold? Absolutely, if the numbers make sense. So if you find a great deal that has equity and cash flow today, you can go ahead and buy it. But keep in mind that in the next, towards the end of the year, meaning 6 months from now, up to a year, you are going to find amazing great deals because there are going to be more foreclosures coming into the market. So right now, there are about 43,000 foreclosures, okay? In the next 12 months, there's going to be an increase of 25% that amount, meaning at least 10 to 15,000 more foreclosures coming into the market. Okay, so that's putting a lot of pressure on property prices. So the economy is contracting. Consumer confidence and spending is down the toilet, right? Because unemployment is super high. Not only that, but keep in mind, by the end of July, the government has given $600 of extra money a week for unemployment. Guess what? That's end by the end of July. So consumer confidence is going down. Okay, property prices are going to decrease. So obviously, if you find a great deal, you can buy, you can move forward, but right now is the time to stash cash, okay? Because cash is gonna be king. When it comes down to pulling the trigger to buy a property, hard money lenders, private money lenders, overall, even conventional lenders, they're going to be looking for reserves. You have to have 10 to 15% or more in cash reserves. You have to be liquid. So right now is the time to stash cash, okay? If you want to um, get funding in the next 3 to 12 months, okay? So it's gonna be super critical. So you can hold back, watch the market, and then save money, right? So when you're ready to pull the trigger, you have the reserves. You are liquid. Okay, that's gonna be rule number one. However, if you find a great deal, you can move forward with it. In fact, we closed on a property 2 weeks ago. We're gonna close on another property in probably a week and a half ago or 2 weeks. Why? Because the numbers make sense. Okay, that is why. And obviously, those are gonna become rentals. We're not gonna do flips because right now is not the time to do flips. You can lose a lot of money doing flips right now. In fact, stay away from flips. But if you already have a flip in the market, you have to price it right so that you can sell it ASAP before property prices continue to drop, because property sales are down. With these new waves of pre-foreclosures, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the market, right? So it's going to increase the inventory supply. By having more inventory supply and still high demand, it's going to readjust. Okay, so prices are going to correct themselves. Therefore, we expect up to 30% price drops in the next 6 to 12 months. So you're going to find incredible deals by the end of the year and going into 2021. So please have reserves. Okay, that is going to be super important. Cash is going to be king for you to follow through on purchases for rentals. And then another strategy that you can add into your tool set is wholesales. Wholesales, by all means, is going to be huge because they're going to be such an increased number of distressed owners. They're going to be your target audience, right? So if you can combine wholesales with rentals, that'll be your best strategies. And keep in mind that you need to have a license to do wholesales, okay? You need to get a real estate broker's license. Otherwise, you can only do one wholesale every 12 months. So right now, I'm going to quickly summarize. It's not the time to do flips. You've got to, if you have a property on the market, you have got to sell it ASAP. Right now is the time to stash cash. And if you're going to do rentals, if you find a great deal with equity and cash flow, if you have the money, go for it. Otherwise, by the end of the year, early next year, there are going to be two waves of a lot of foreclosures. One coming from the already unemployed distressed owners, 9,000. As soon as the courts open, end of July, beginning of August, 10,000, boom, are coming into the market. And those are leads that you can reach out to either do a wholesale or buy and hold. Okay, and then with forbearance ending after elections, then guess what? There's going to be another huge wave of foreclosures. In fact, right now, 10% of homeowners in the US are in forbearance, okay? Which is huge. 10% of homeowners in forbearance, it's just a astronomical number, okay? Because unemployment is so high, 25% or 40 million people, that by the end of the year, when elections happen, nothing is doing anything. People are not getting jobs because companies are on freeze, right? They are just on hold to wait what happens with the election. So there's going to be a wave coming from the forbearance, and then forbearance can be extended a second time, so another 6 months. So after 12 months, there's going to be a second wave of foreclosures. People who still can't pay the mortgage, they're going to go into foreclosure. Why? Because it's not forgiveness of mortgage payments, it's just deferment, which makes things worse, right? If you cannot pay the mortgage, in 1, 2, 3 months, do you think you're going to have the entire money to pay 6 months all at once? Impossible. So forbearance, in my opinion, is affecting a lot of homeowners. Okay, homeowners are wanting to um, save that money, but they're living off of it. That's the problem. And by the end of the forbearance period, they won't have the money to pay for the mortgage, and immediately they're going to enter the foreclosure process. So again, right now is the time to sell if you have any property that you need to sell. It's also right now the time to refinance instead. If you don't have to sell, please don't sell, because when you sell a property, you're going to trigger a tax event. Um, Refinance. Why? Because property interest rates are so low, right? So when you refinance, not only are you going to put your loan into a very low interest rate, but it's not going to trigger a tax event. So you're going to be way better off. If you find great rentals that cash flow and have equity, by all means, buy them. Otherwise, hold off, because in the next 3 to 12 months, you're going to find incredible deals. So 10 to 15,000 foreclosures are going to come down the pipe, causing property prices to go down. Also, something that is very important, baby boomers, so people who were born in 1946 through 1964, so they're in their 50s, 60s, and 70s right now. Guess what? They will downsize. They become empty nesters. They're going to downsize in the next few years. So those are the baby boomers are the ones owning the luxury big houses. So that asset type, it's also going to collapse, because there are going to be so many of them coming into the market, that property prices for high-end housing is going to also come down and hard. Okay, so be just aware of that. That's a market that you should not get into right now. Not that we are buying expensive homes right now. We like to focus on simple, boring houses, less than 200,000, less than 1,800 square feet, under 200,000. So that's what you need to focus on: rentals and wholesales. So the spreadsheet that you see in front of you, it works amazing in a normal economy, but right now in a contracting economy where property prices are going down, it's good that you understand the numbers, but again, you need to understand not only what's happening today, but what's going to happen in the next 6 months. And if property prices are going to go down, for sure you cannot do flips. It's way too risky unless you buy the property super, super low, so that you have enough room. But why do a flip when you can buy and hold, or wholesale the property, right? And be safer, be more cautious. Okay, and right now saving is going to be key, because you need to have liquidity in 6 to 12 months that you're ready to pull the trigger. Banks, hard money lenders, private money lenders are going to be looking at your liquidity, your savings. That's going to be super important to get funding. Okay, so in fact, like on the property we're closing in probably a couple of weeks, the bank told me, okay, all they wanted to see is reserves. If you show me this much in reserves, you have the money. The reserves are more than what you typically require for down payment, but that's what they need, right? If you have enough reserves, you're going to get the funding. I mean, that's guaranteed 100%. That is why cash is king. Stash cash as much as you can if possible, okay? But if not, remember, wholesaling is going to be an incredible strategy to take on right now. So if you don't have a real estate license, right now that we're in this downtime is the time to get licensed. Super, super important. Check out instituteonline.com. That's where I renew my license. Or look up on Google Real Estate Institute. It's an incredible institute that they have online courses or in person when they open up in multiple locations in the Chicagoland area. Now, are there any questions right now on everything that we touched on? Because we covered a lot of information in such a short period of time. So I want to make sure that everyone understands what you're supposed to do right now in this pandemic. Any questions that you want to unmute yourself or put them in the chat. So again, there's a question, Valerie, where did you get your RE license? Institute, it's called Real Estate Institute, and the website is Institute Online, Real Estate Institute Online.com. So you can Google that, Real Estate Institute, and there are many locations in the Chicagoland area. Now, having issues getting credit cards, any ideas? So credit cards, business credit cards, I mean, it's just a great way to get funding, to have that line of credit available when you do rehabbing, when you need cash advance, it's incredible. So they're going to be looking at obviously your credit, your experience in your business. That's about it. So we have about 7 or 8 banks that if you don't have them, please send us an email to support@ChicagoDealVault.com. We're going to give you the names of those credit cards, business credit cards that you need to apply for. But again, every case is individual, and then banks will change their policies based on what's happening with the economy. So hopefully you can all apply for business credit cards because it's just an incredible way to get funding, okay, easy money through business credit cards. Another question is, will private lenders fund rehabs? Absolutely, if you have equity and cash flow. Another question is, should I buy a rental income property right now? If the numbers make sense and you have equity, gives positive cash flow, absolutely. Should you wait until the property prices go down further just to be safe? If it's a great deal and it cash flows and it has equity, go for it now, okay? Because if you wait, that property might be gone. Does that make sense? So great deals, you have to take, pull the trigger ASAP, right? So if you have equity and cash flow, go for it. Don't wait because it may not come. You may lose that deal. There might be others coming down the pipe, but if it makes sense and you have the cash, you have the money, you have the funding line up, go for it. Banks not extending credit now. David, so right now, like week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I got a line increase in one of our credit cards from PNC. They gave us 10,000 and we did not even request it. So so go look out for PNC and Bank of America. Okay, Bank of America has given us like 120,000 on a business credit card. It's just insane. Another question is, do you think homeowners, okay, how much is good reserve amount for a newbie? Okay, so if you have, I would say 20,000 in reserves, I would say 20 to 40,000 is just a great number, okay, to have in reserves, 20 to 40,000. Another question is, do you think homeowners, that's incomplete, if you can complete the question. Valerie, that'd be great. So any other questions on the line? So I want to make sure that you all get this spreadsheet. Please send us an email to support@ChicagoDealVault.com to get the spreadsheet for the flip versus rental. And again, remember, as a rule of thumb, don't start any flips. Only buy and hold and start doing wholesales. If you don't have a license, get the license right now. Why? Property prices are going to go down up to 30% in the next 12 months. Therefore, you can't do flips. And if you have a property you have to sell it ASAP, because right now we're at the peak. And even right now, property prices have dropped about 10%. So sell now if you have to. Otherwise, refinance instead so you don't trigger a tax event, okay? So that's in a nutshell what you have to do. Focus on rentals and wholesales. Stash cash and be ready to pull the trigger. Continue to learn. Join these webinars. We're going to start doing live events pretty soon, hopefully next week. In fact, the property that we closed in about 2 weeks ago. We're just gonna wrap up the rehab this weekend. So I think next week we may do a live event. You know, you can have up to 50 people. So we might bring you to the property and then we're gonna go over the numbers, rehab, everything. Okay. So if you don't have access to Chicago Deal Vault, please make sure you get it. So I'm gonna give you the link to get Chicago Deal Vault. There's another question. Do you think homeowners will be trying to do short sales versus foreclosures? Absolutely. So short sale is going to be driven by equity. If they're underwater, so meaning if they don't have equity, they have two options. Either they do a loan modification, but they're going to require the help of a mortgage broker, which we're not, or they do a short sale. So they try to get it approved from the bank. But we're going to be looking for owners with a lot of equity, right? So they're not in trying to do a short sale. We just want a lot of equity in the property, so we have a lot of room for negotiation, and there are tons of them, and they're going to be coming even more high equity distress owners. Those are the owners we want to focus on. Okay. So for now, we skip owners with little equity and or no equity. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on over 50% equity as a rule of thumb. So if you don't have access to DealVault, please get it. The monthly subscription is $140 per month. Okay, if you do it yearly, it's going to be $120 yearly, and we have a 30-day money back guarantee per month if this is done yearly. So for the package, you need to select special, Blue Angel for the yearly, or special Lamborghini for the monthly. Okay, and then so when you sign up for Chicago DealVault is going to give you access to all the off-market leads, all the pre-foreclosures, all the probates. Not only that, we have access to private money lenders, area reports, cash buyers over 60,000. Oh, we're going to give you access to over 80 preferred partners. You can search the MLS even if you don't have a license. It's through our brokerage. So we're going to give you the training, unlimited training, the technology, the tools for you to be successful today. Okay. And also, we are going to be running a very cool event this Sunday. Make sure that you RSVP. We're going to do face off. Wholesaling, cash flow, and flipping. Okay, so we have two special guests, Dan Carlton and Biara. Okay, and Christopher Brito. So it's going to be really cool, a flipper, wholesaler, and an investor. Okay, so please make sure that you join on Sunday. And also, we're going to be running, perhaps by the end of August, it's going to be a live event. So I want to make sure that you RSVP because this bootcamp may be a live event. Right now we have it as webinar, but by the end of August, it might be a live event. So it's going to be super amazing. Please make sure that you RSVP for it. Okay. And then again, when you get access to Chicago DealVault, you're going to get unlimited training one-on-one. And if you do the yearly, you're going to have access to bank-owned properties that you can buy directly from large banks. Okay. So if you have any questions, I'm going to stay on the line for the next couple of minutes to help you get started, or if you have any further questions. So you're going to get the replay tomorrow. So thank you for joining. Everyone, please make sure that you sign up, 30-day money back guarantee, and please schedule your training if you have not yet scheduled a training, or if you have any sort of questions. I want to make sure that we help you schedule a one-on-one training. It's going to be via webinar. Okay, see you Sunday. Another question is, okay, thank you, Valerie, thank you. Yeah, the bootcamp is free, absolutely. The bootcamp is free, okay? Even if we do a live event, it's gonna be free. If we do a live event, it's gonna be super awesome because we're gonna add a networking event. We're going to have food, music, so it's going to be really cool if by then we can do a live event. But for now, make sure that you RSVP. I send you the link. Make sure that you sign up. You have given 30-day free access, but when I fill in the form, it was charging a card. Oh, so we're not going to charge the card, Peter. We're just going to hold it. So at the end of the trial, if you decide to continue, then we're just going to use that card. If you decide to cancel, then nothing gets charged to your credit card. Okay, so we are not charging your credit card. We're just putting that on in our records. Okay. So, are there any other questions that I can help you answer? You'll get the replay for this session tomorrow morning, and then please make sure that you download our phone app. Okay, it has hundreds of videos. Phone app, it's DealVault Academy. It's called DealVault, or text 818-818 the keyword DealVault. Okay, so make sure that you download. We have over 100 training videos in a sequential manner. So make sure that you get that. And then I'll be on the line for the next few minutes. Another question. Oh, thank you, Debbie. To get started and later for any questions. Okay, to get started, Peter, this is the link to fill out the form. And then if you want, if you were given the free trial, then select for the package Special Chicago Deal Vault. I just put it on the chat, okay? If you were given the free trial. So either one, you have 30 days, okay? So if we're gonna give you all the resources, all the training, all the leads, all the materials, all the handouts, contracts, preferred partners, everything. If it works for you, amazing. We're gonna continue to add value and make sure that you are successful now. If you think this is not for you, then it's okay. Okay. Are there any other questions on the line that I can help you answer? If no further questions, thank you everyone for joining. Hope you learned a lot and it was beneficial to all of you. I look forward to seeing you Sunday. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a wonderful evening.